Hello, hiya, and greetings. Welcome to the Aimless Adventures Guild meeting, our weekly YouTube special where we pick a subject and we talk about it for a little while. Across the table from me, returning because he just couldn't stay away, Farm Boy Racing himself, Brian Schultz.
Howdy.
We have the matriarch of fun facts, Helen.
Hi there.
The bearded wonder and the man who loves warm beer for some reason, John Benj.
It's drinkable. It's a drinkability, man.
And
He has a sensitive palate.
I disagree. And you should live in the UK. And then, of course,
my humor would fit in, so it's okay.
and then, of course, I'm Josh. Unfortunately, Ryan and Hoove had family matters to discuss today, or take care of today, and then Murph couldn't make it because he's
on a business trip.
He's on a business trip. Big old fancy corporate guy.
Yeah.
Stuff gets in the way.
Yep, exactly. I'm actually going to be taking a couple of business trips. Pretty much February, I will be gone, it looks like.
Wow.
And I might take a business trip next month, too. But anyway, so today, our subject is we wanted to talk about games and cartoons that we would like to be made into live-action movies.
We're going to preface this by saying we have to suspend disbelief and act like nothing has ever been made by Hollywood for cartoons or video games. So you can't go in thinking, oh, I would love to see this game made into a movie, but Hollywood's track record, they're going to screw it up, or this one, they already made it and it sucked. None of that ever happened.
Michael Bay does not exist.
Thank God. So we're going to start from scratch, like that. This genre has never been touched.
Okay, I pick Superman.
Ooh. As
Just kidding.
Video game?
Yeah, I want to see the Nintendo 64 Superman made into a movie. Just glitchy and racing.
So
and
hard to control.
All kinds of weird ass shit. So, since Brian's in studio again, we'll go over here and start with Brian. Let's start with cartoons.
I'm actually surprised to this point that it hasn't happened yet. One of my favorite cartoons back in the day was Voltron.
Oh.
And I got to thinking about it, and I kind of figured out why. Because the popularity of that just super generic, that Morphin Power Rangers thing, and it was a similar concept, but totally not as cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But
no way.
I think that killed the whole Voltron thing, but that cartoon was awesome. I love that one.
I was actually thinking today that would have been a really good pick, and especially if they went like Pacific Rim with it.
And I think on top of the Morphin thing, that was my next thing, was Pacific Rim stole whatever Steam was left. Pacific Rim just sucked it right up and took the concept of...
Yeah, that big kaiju monster movie, right?
Yeah.
Where you get... you I don't know. I think that's pretty cool because...
Yeah.
In Voltron, you've got 7 different characters?
I believe so.
That all have their own stories. They all came to Voltron for different reasons. They've all got their different specialties.
Okay. Cats or cars?
And see, that was the next thing. Is like you had the cats, and not many people even remember that. And that was I wasn't going to bring it up, but I'm glad you did, because I was thinking about that. I was like, well, cats or cars? I would think the cats part would probably make more sense, and like you said, telling 7 stories, 7 background stories of how this thing came about would be enough. Whereas the cars ones, there was like 30, 40 of them that made up Voltron, so that would get just complicated. I mean, not to say like we couldn't bring it in as a secondary character or something, but I think the cats one, and just the tiger aspect of it just looked more fierce, what I mean? It looked cooler to me.
So I agree. They could do some great things with computer animation.
Oh, definitely. I would have expected you to go with cars.
Honestly, I thought about it, but I mean, man, Voltron. That was one of my favorites back in the day. Was Voltron.
So there was a Cars Voltron?
Yes, they were like little miniature cars, and it took like 30, 40 of them to make up Voltron. But
it wasn't like the cats, like one cat was one leg, one cat was the next leg, et cetera, et cetera. It was like one car was the foot, another car was the other foot.
Yeah.
It was literally like 30 cars completed it.
And it had a shorter run. It wasn't on TV as long as the Cats one was.
Well, part of the Voltron pose, right, is the wow, right? Like you can't.
It was Vroom. I can't remember. But
like the hood opens, like that just.
Looks,
that's like Christine on the end of your arm.
With the V8 logo in his chest.
I can, and that's the thing. I can totally picture the Cat Voltron in my head.
Yeah.
I can't for the life of me picture what the car Voltron looked like.
All I can remember is the feet.
Yeah.
All I know is one car was 1 foot.
Yeah.
I seriously do not remember a Voltron that was all cars.
No, I mean now of course.
Now I got to go to YouTube. And
I'm going to say we're going to Google it and YouTube it and a little bit of research would have helped me in this situation.
Yeah, maybe.
I'd have been able to describe it.
Yeah.
John, insert the video right now.
Right now.
Yeah, that's a good one. I to be honest with you, as much as I love Voltron, that one didn't even cross my mind. So.
It was probably
cartoons when we were kids were the greatest thing on earth.
Absolutely. Like there's a picture on Facebook that floats around, and it's two little kids in their pajamas sitting in front of a TV
with bowls of cereal,
watching cartoons on a Saturday morning, and it's like this generation will never know the fun of a Saturday morning, and it's like that was it, especially me, and not to say like mine was great enough, but like where I grew up 5 miles out of town on a farm, and we didn't have much to do, especially on the weekends when there was no school. Right. So like that was like up there with like church. I mean, it's like that's just what you did every Saturday, and
you're up at like 4 or 5.
Yeah, and I had an older brother and an older sister, so whoever woke up first got to pick the first few cartoons. So like it was a challenge. Like you'd be like, I gotta get mine in this week. I need to wake up early.
What I would do on Saturday morning before the cartoons would start, and I was the only one awake, I'd always hit play on the VCR and see what parents were watching the night before. Sometimes it was gold, sometimes it was just something old.
When I was a kid, we didn't really compete for the TV. We had, I grew up sort of spoiled, I guess. We had 2 TVs.
See,
we had the den in the living room, and then
you had a den and a living room,
right?
And then when we lived on base and stuff, like there was cable in all the rooms, so we had our own little TVs in our own rooms,
right,
that we could watch. And like they only went up to like channel 30 or something because it had the little
the little clicker. Yeah.
I bent the metal coat hanger so I could lie in bed and change the channel.
That's
but
awesome.
like I didn't have to like argue with anybody about the TV. It wasn't a fight.
Not at our house, man. In the house I grew up in, we didn't even have. When we rented movies, we had to rent a VCR player with it from Movie Connection.
Yeah.
Movie Connection.
Where the case was built onto the VCR.
Yes. And then on top, like we were the last people that I knew to get all the technology. Like my parents, they are not technical people, and so like I was in high school before we got a microwave. Like we didn't have a dishwasher. We didn't have a dryer. We had a washing machine, but we had a clothesline. Like my mom, she just wasn't into that stuff. And we didn't have cable TV. Like I had channels 3, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 15. That was it.
Yep.
And then when 45 came along, it was like throw a party because there's a new channel in town. And it was not until I was graduated high school, going to CAC and working, I took my own money and bought DirecTV satellites and put it at the house, and that was the first time we had cable TV in our house. Was when I bought it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't want to sound like poor me party or whatever, but I completely understand. Never had AC in a house or a dishwasher until we got a house together, and it had both.
Right.
But
it's crazy.
Yeah.
We were like, and you had your friends always like, we didn't have, I think we had a Nintendo finally when I was, the original Nintendo.
When the PS3 came out.
By the time Nintendo 64 had come out, we had the original, and it's crazy. When having, your friends at school and they're talking about all the cool stuff and this and that, and you're like, man, I just rode my bike all weekend, which is what I did. So,
wow, that was a good pick. I like Voltron.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Helen, where are you at on the subject?
Okay, so I have 2.
They are making a movie out of Gem, by the way. I know
That's going to be my
right?
pick. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm so going to watch it with or without him.
It is not Gem.
This is one of the reasons why I wanted it to none of this ever existed in our discussion, because I agree with you. That's not Gem.
Some YouTube pop princess, like no synergy. Well, they have like a robot named Synergy, but like she's supposed to be Jim in the hologram. She's not a fucking hologram.
Right.
She's wearing makeup, but you can tell in the commercials and stuff that she's wearing makeup. It's not Synergy, help me, and then they do the fucking, you know.
But either way, I'm
the whole
excited
ear
for it.
tagging thing. Yeah.
Synergy, help me.
Yep. But yeah, so it's that one, Gem,
Okay.
of course, because that was my favorite.
I like Jim too. I can't help it.
And then another one that I didn't really watch when I was a kid, but I watched when I was, I think, when my oldest was like watching cartoons and stuff. Ren and Stimpy.
Ooh.
Oh wow.
Now we are talking live action movies, right?
Right.
So it'd be
Wow.
like a Milo and Otis version?
Right, but like for some
But
reason,
super
in my-
gross.
Yeah.
I was saying, they would have to be a lot of CGI in that, like the SpongeBob movie type
Right.
thing, where they look cartoonish, but yet
Yeah, I mean, there would have to definitely be live action characters for it to count, because one of the movies games I'm gonna choose later on in the discussion, we'll get to that later, but so yeah, that I don't know, could the main characters be CGI and everybody else in the world be real people, like
Yeah, I mean, I think you could
Garfield
do that.
kind of thing?
Yeah, they do that with like Garfield
well, yeah,
and stuff.
there's a lot of movies that are like that now,
So
where,
that would
where the main
probably be
character
okay.
is 100% CGI.
Yeah.
But kids nowadays seem to be away from the gross, right? Like when we grew up,
Yeah.
we had like Garbage Pail Kids
Right.
and stuff like that, you know?
Mel
Yeah.
and Helen, I still have. some.
Yeah.
Our kids love them.
Yeah.
But like they're not popular anymore.
Yeah.
Like kids don't gravitate toward the gross anymore. So
Right.
I think that's an awesome pick. I mean, Ren and Stimpy were hilarious. I'm thinking of the log song right now in my head.
Long. It's long.
It's big, it's heavy, it's wood.
Yep.
It's better than bad. It's good.
Stimpy, you idiot.
Yeah, no, I like Ren and Stimpy. That's good. I haven't watched that one. I remember being a kid. Like I said, I had TV in my room, so and I had Nickelodeon, and I remember when they were advertising the new Nicktoons. Like at the time, I can't remember how old I was, but it seemed like it was going to be forever before they came out. And they're out there advertising Ren and Stimpy and Doug and Rugrats and stuff like that.
Doug.
And
I love Doug.
those are like some of the greatest cartoons. I love Doug. Quail Man.
Heck yeah.
Oh man, yep.
Skeeter. So, John.
Looking for a costume to become Quail Man.
Yep, working on it.
For this Halloween?
No, for Comic-Con or something.
Oh, okay.
That's not a bad costume. I mean, it's
simple.
a green sweater with a white T-shirt underneath, V-neck sweater, khaki
Khaki, yeah.
Shorts.
khaki shorts,
Underwear
A
on the
belt.
outside.
underwear on the outside, and then a
A
belt.
belt.
That's
Yep.
That's it.
I dig it. I think that would be a great costume.
Heck yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Okay. My pick. I had two as well. Want me to say the second one or just leave it on at it later as a
Pick
also
your.
ran?
Give us your second pick first. I mean, we
Okay.
got time.
Yeah.
We're short like 3 people, 4
Okay,
people.
my second pick is a little bit more obscure, but the show M.A.S.K.
Yes.
Fuck you.
Yes.
God damn it!
Damn it! Sorry.
Fuck! That's where I was gonna go with mine.
Oh,
Shit!
I can
Steeler.
retract it.
No, I gotta think of something else. No, I was gonna go with Masks.
Oh man, Mask was a good show.
Yeah, now I'm just scratch that, reverse it. I'll figure out something else. Okay,
Mask
by the
was a
time
good
it gets
show.
to me.
I totally
Yeah.
agree with that one.
I fucking-
That's like got the Fast and Furious feel to it. You know, with the multiple cars and it's
Flying cars and then the R2D2 that became a scooter, like
Kind of a
Yeah.
personal
Transformer
thing
element.
for the kid. Like
I love the whole garage turned into the base and
yeah.
stuff.
Oh.
Like, see, and I'm not an artist at all. Like, but the one time in my life when I actually got into drawing stuff was I would watch Mask and then I would grab my pencil and paper and draw cars, trucks with like guns all hanging off of them.
Nice.
You know, like that was the one time in my life that I was into drawing was the Mask thing. Like every time after Mask, I'd draw my own what I would have if I was a Mask vehicle. Yeah.
I drew a lot of NASCAR. That's
Really?
Yeah, NASCAR and like Apache helicopters. I drew those all the fucking time.
I drew robots and
Has guns
bugs that
and
didn't
missiles.
exist.
Yeah, exactly. And no, like I dress up the NASCAR to be like a fighting car. Like I do crazy shit, but
All right.
Mobile armored. I can't remember what.
Oh, I
M.A.S.K.
can't even-
stands
I
for.
can't-
it's been so. It has literally been 28 years since I've seen Mask. I mean,
At least.
you know what I mean? Like it's one of those things. But that was easily. Okay, so I'm gonna go a little sacrilegious for a minute.
Okay.
So when I was a kid, I had a couple of favorite cartoons. Transformers wasn't on the list.
What?
I love Transformers, but it wasn't on like my top, like the ones that I wanted to watch every week.
It's a good thing Murph and Hoove aren't here.
There were two that I'm debating now that I'm going to bring up for my movie. Then there was GoBots.
Okay.
Which was Transformers knockoff.
Yeah.
But I liked GoBots better. I can't explain it.
GoBots had that little generic scooter on
the
little
red scooter.
Yes.
Yeah, he was like the main guy. So I liked GoBots for whatever reason. GoBots was my jam, and then M.A.S.K. So those were like the...
Well, we're throwing out sacrilege. One of my favorite Saturday morning cartoons was Snorks, which was a Smurfs.
Oh, I love
ripoff.
Snorks. It was. I mean, I think
the Smurfs underwater.
They had crossover shows.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did.
Wow.
I remember being a kid and we couldn't watch the Smurfs because the cat's name was what, Lazarus?
Gargamel.
Gargamel.
Azrael.
No,
Azrael was the
Azrael.
Gargamel was the guy. Azrael was the guy.
Yeah.
Oh, because it was the religious
Yeah,
thing?
that's when my parents were religious and we couldn't watch that
Oh, they
one.
pulled the religion card on you?
Yep.
Oh, blackballed.
Man.
We still snuck it.
Man, my mom loved the Smurfs and Scooby-Doo and like all that stuff. I was introduced to that stuff very early on.
Yeah, the Saturday morning variety was a lot more mellow. Like Voltron, the Transformers seemed to be more of like an after school cartoon thing.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles too was also more of an
whereas
after school
like
thing.
Saturday morning was the Bugs Bunnies and the kind of real mellow
Hanna-Barbera and
that stuff.
Yeah.
Which kind of bummed me out because I mean, you want to see your jam, you know what I mean, and that's you had to wait until the school week to actually.
I think for me it was just like when you got the Sunday paper. And you got the comics.
Read the comics.
And it didn't even matter if you liked those comics or not. You read them.
Right.
And having 4 or 5 hours in a morning dedicated to school and watching cartoons was awesome. It didn't really matter what the shows were.
Yeah.
Well, and then you got Looney Tunes, the most violent cartoon ever on television.
Yeah.
I just had a memory click in my head. Like I remember watching cartoons on Saturdays, and we were allowed to watch cartoons until my dad's show came on, which was Knight Rider.
Oh,
can't blame him.
I love Knight Rider.
When we would have to give the remote over.
When Amanda and I first started living together in our first apartment, I would get up at 3:00 in the morning because that's what time Knight Rider came on, and watch Knight Rider and then go back to bed.
Oh wow!
Like almost every day. Like I'd get up, I'd roll over, it's still dark, I'd turn on the TV, and I'd always set it the night before to the right channel, and turn it on, and then watch Knight Rider. There were 2 back-to-back episodes, and then I'd go back to bed. It's Knight Rider and Airwolf, man.
Dude, yes.
Right? Man, all these shows I'd forgotten about.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Yeah, we had a...
We'll have to talk about, like, cheesy television shows eventually that we want to see made into really good movies. But
we had a 1 TV household as well, and same rules applied once my dad's show came on, which happened to be pro wrestling. And that's how I got into it. I got tired of...
Dude, at least... sorry to interrupt, but at least your parents wanted to watch cool stuff.
Yeah.
When that happened in my house, and that same thing, we had 1 TV. And this is the thing, like, my wife and I, we argue about, is like, when it's time for me to watch my shows, it's like, I bought that TV.
Yeah.
I pay for the electricity that runs that TV. That's mine whenever I want it. So, and I have my spot on the couch.
Yep.
I don't know about you guys, but my dad had his spot on the couch, and when he came in, you got out of his way, and he watched what he wanted to watch. And my dad watched nature shows. I'm talking Channel 8, Marty Stauffer, Wild America, like
not even
nature.
National Geographic?
No, well, yeah, but it's like
Mutual of
really like Knight Rider's on right now.
Yeah.
You know that, right? We got to watch a freaking gazelle in the African jungle, Safari Land or whatever, and it's like, man, it was tough.
See,
it was tough.
My dad was awesome. Like the stuff that like we would sit down like Sundays, I think it was usually, and we would watch like all the automotive shows, right? So you'd have like the monster trucks, you'd have the NHRA, you'd have NASCAR, like all that shit happened on Sundays, and we would sit there and watch that shit for hours.
Yep.
On occasion, he would watch Bill Dance or whatever, and watching fishing is not all that great to me.
The outdoor shows.
Yeah, like I was not big on the fishing, but we would watch all the NHRA shows, and then when I started to become a teenager, we'd flip back and forth during commercials to, do you remember the Fashion Channel that was out on there for a little while?
Yeah.
And they would do the runway shows? Well, most of those chicks were pretty much naked. So Dad would flip back and forth when there was a commercial on whatever we were watching. We'd go back and watch the half naked ladies walk on the stage.
Wow.
Memories.
That's funny. One of my favorite race drivers actually is a driver in a sport that I don't like watching, Mario Andretti. Because both of my parents came from Indiana. They didn't meet each other until they came here. But so every year, Indy 500 was on from beginning to end.
Yeah, that was the thing. The Indy 500 it's sad to think of what it's turned into lately versus what it was like when we were kids. Like it was
a deal.
It was an event. Yeah. Like you didn't miss it. Like even if you just vaguely liked racing, you would watch the Indy 500 every year.
Right.
When I was a kid, Indianapolis, the Indy cars were closer to Formula One cars. There wasn't that much of a difference. You knew that Formula One took place around the world.
They did look very similar back in the day.
But like Indy was like American formula cars. So like you had Al Unser Jr., Michael Andretti, Mario Andretti, like all of these racing heroes that were. I mean, one of my favorite NES games is over there. Al Unser Jr.'s Turbo Racing. Like. I loved IndyCar when I was a kid, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, I don't really like open cart racing very much. I want my cars that are racing to look like cars.
Yeah,
you know, it's just how I am.
I would say that I used to like it a bunch, but for a while there, they actually started recruiting drivers from like. Closely related to my form of racing, like dirt track, Saturday Night Heroes. Like that's how Tony Stewart. He went to Indy first, and then a local guy here out of Phoenix, JJ Yaley. He was a sprint car midget, Silver Crown, USAC, the Triple Crown champion, and he got plucked out of that to go run Indy cars first, and then down, drop down into NASCAR. And for a while there, the trend was like, okay, we're going to start being able to root for American guys. And then like that whole movement lost its momentum. And now you're back to, names that you can't pronounce and people that you don't even care about. And it's like, how do you expect me to cheer for somebody that ain't even from here? Can't hardly, it's like, how many Italians do you want to jam down our freaking throats and make us come back and try to cheer for him?
Yeah, in my adult life, the only thing that made Indy popular was Danica Patrick.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That was the only name anybody knew. Nobody cared about anybody else.
And then, people try to say, well, Mario Andretti, and I was like, no, Mario Andretti was an American. He was born and raised in America. He was a sprint car, dirt track, badass dude. Yeah. And he, worked his way up the ranks and, he was, obviously good at it and did his thing, but, because people that, I say people say that Mario is Italian. People outside of racing, that try to get in that argument. But no, I don't see what's in their head when they do that kind of stuff. When they think, okay, I'm going to put some guy that's not from here. Part of the whole thing of your sport is you need the fans.
Yeah.
Like they're slowly but surely realizing that you can't just, put on a show how you want to put on a show and the crowd will come to you. No, you kind of need to play to the crowd sometimes.
Right.
Well, you knew Indy was dead when they started running NASCAR at the Brickyard, right?
Oh, yeah. It's like the writing was on the wall at that point. When the first Brickyard, race took place, it's like...
Indy's done.
They're just kind of...
They need to use the track.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. So what was your number one cartoon?
Yeah.
Number one cartoon.
This better be good.
Thundercats.
Yes, that was good. That was my number two that I wasn't going to.
That was one of the ones that was in my head when you announced this subject, and I was like, well, I think John will pick that one. So I was like trying to figure out something else, and I'm like, John will never pick masks. Nobody knows what the fuck masks is.
Yeah, and for many years, I thought Michael Duncan Clark would have been the perfect Panthro.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
He's dead now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But, yeah, that would have been...
He'd have been that guy, absolutely.
2012 or before.
Absolutely.
Who's the big motherfucker that's in, like, the Expendables?
Terry Crews.
Yeah, Terry Crews.
Yeah, like, he would be all right.
I would agree. He's got the perfect shape. He just doesn't have the voice.
He doesn't have the gravitas to his voice.
Yeah. Exactly. Whereas
And yeah, Michael was probably a bit larger than he needed to be, but that's good for Hollywood.
That's good casting.
And he
right
had
there,
the voice.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So who's Lionel?
That I would actually go with Mr. Hemsworth that plays Thor. That's who I would probably pick from current Hollywood. I mean, he's got physique, he can act, he's got the hero looks. I mean,
maybe
trying to think of somebody that would be better than
him, or like maybe if Marky Mark bulked up a little bit.
God, his attitude's all wrong though.
She hates his voice.
You hate Marky Mark's voice, really?
Say hello to your mother for me.
Oh my gosh.
He talks as a little.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't know. Maybe I don't pay enough attention to male lead actors, but I can't really think of much other than like Marky Mark jumped.
It's hard for me to pick female actors for stuff, and
I think
I don't know.
Oh man, no. There's got to be somebody.
Snarf would have to be CGI though.
You think so?
I think so.
Man, Mini-Me. Vern Troyer. Yes.
Snarf.
Bring him back.
And Chitara?
I can't even do Lionel. Where's Chitara? Snarf. in Vern Troyer voice, I can't do it.
So Chitara.
Again, it's hard for me to pick female leads, and I might sound like I'm pre-kissing a little butt or whatever, but I think Jen Page would be a pretty good pick for that. She's got the build and
Who's that?
blonde hair and stuff. She's an actress that does a lot of YouTube stuff and everything.
She's going to be on our podcast Saturday.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But, I think for Chitara, I would have to... I'll tell you what, I've been watching that Blind Spot.
Okay.
And that lead actress, her physique is spot on for that.
Okay.
Long, lean, muscular, fast.
Oh, yeah. I'll leave it at that. She's a good-looking lady.
Maybe like a Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, I was just thinking her, too.
I just hate
depends
her
on which
so
Scarlett
much.
Johansson.
Huh?
She changes so much from movie to movie. Yeah, it's kind of... But, yeah, I can see...
And then the twins. Who were the twins? What were their names? I can't remember their names.
Mary Kate and Ashley?
That's the first thing that came to my head. I'm like, no, that's not who he's talking about.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was like, which one are you wanting to play what? Dang it, I can't remember their names.
I can't think of their names right now either.
Kit and Kat.
Yes,
I think it was Kit and Kat.
Good job.
So what young
from underneath?
So what young actors, the male and female, would you choose to play them right now?
Ooh.
I don't know. I'm sure there's like some Disney show. They pay us to take these kids.
Yeah,
Us. I say us like we're making this movie.
Yeah. Ooh, can't think of anybody.
Just curious if you had anybody in mind.
Mm-mm.
So I do have to ask though, Mumra.
Ooh.
Who plays Mumra?
Samuel L. Jackson.
I'll get you, motherfucker.
Right.
The end of his thing says badass motherfucker.
Ooh, Mumra.
Wait, you mean it says this? Boom.
Nice. Heck yeah. A guy just thwarted a cafe robbery quoting the scene from that and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, really? For real?
For real.
Like, for real?
Yep.
Garçon! Coffee!
He just kept saying, normally I'd kill you, but I'm trying to change my ways.
In a transitional
I'm going to let
period
you
right
go
now.
or whatever. And the whole scene. And the robbers ended up just kind of like, I don't know if they were
Didn't get it?
scared or if they were just thought he was crazy or what, but they ended up leaving without hurting anybody.
Where was this?
In, I want to say Iowa. It was
Oh,
back
wow.
east somewhere.
Well, that's in the top 3 of my all-time movies.
Yeah, Mumra, I would. I'm going to say a name that I don't know if it would work or not, but he has an interesting enough voice, and Steve Buscemi.
Okay, I could get. He already looks dead.
Yeah.
He's got it. Yeah.
He's. Could you imagine Christopher Walken as Mumra?
That was the other name I was going to say. Lionel. We have a problem.
Sorry, I glanced at his shirt and I'm like, oh, that's funny as shit right there. All right. So I guess I got to pick a cartoon.
Did we
now.
stall enough for you to come up with something?
And some motherfucker just took my answer.
Helen. God.
I am going to go with He-Man.
Okay.
That one came to mind too. It's like, you know,
who would you have as He-Man?
But the one that actually was was made sucked. I mean, they just killed it.
Yeah,
but
the one,
with
CGI, Dolph Lundgren.
It would be awesome.
That Dolph Lundgren one was horrible. Easily one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I mean, I watched it like 20 times, but it's horrible. Who would play He-Man? I think that I've got to go your direction just because he does look so much like Thor, and that would be Chris Hemsworth, right? Yeah. I think he would make a good He-Man. I can't think of anybody else. Who's the douchebag from the fucking stripper movie?
Channing Tatum.
Yeah, I don't like him, but
I could see that.
If he wasn't such a dude bro, he might be able to pull it off.
Somebody else that I think would work, especially if Hollywood continued to do it with other movies and stuff.
Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, either the Hemsworth brothers or...
No, not Chris Hemsworth.
I would say that's the one you already said.
No, I mean Captain America.
Okay.
Chris, right?
Something, yeah. Yeah, I'm terrible with names like that.
Me too. I can't remember.
But Chris,
Captain America guy.
Captain America.
That guy.
I think he would be all right.
Except for I think he would look ridiculous with long blonde hair, so they might have to just completely go with a different idea. The Rock.
His hair's blonde, though.
No, I'm saying The Rock,
America.
if he...
Oh.
He's built for it. He could probably pull off a good Skeletor.
Ooh.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, he's got a pretty good voice like that, and Skeletor's going to have
a mask and
facial mask anyway, so
then he's got that bodysuit.
Oh yeah.
Now I have heard they're making a new He-Man movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh really?
I've seen pictures of Battle Cat. Oh my god, it looks. Just the picture of Battle Cat was like, I'm sold. You take my money now.
Yeah. So I guess I would have to go with He-Man. Thundercats was my number 2, so it's just like we're sort of on the same page. So I was like, okay, so top 4 cartoons. All right, so what's left is He-Man.
Whenever we do stuff like this, we're gonna have to come up with like top 4 just in case.
Yeah, we might want to share the next time.
Yeah. I had actually a kind of an obscure one that it only came on in the mornings during Wallace and Ladmo. I know you guys remember that show back in the day. Who didn't want a Ladmo back?
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Am I right?
Yeah.
So a little side note. One year we went to Oktoberfest with my family up in Scottsdale. Wallace and Ladmo were there. Had a live show there, and
at
full blown show. This was
catering to the
This was the
kids that
80s,
grew
man.
up?
Things were crazy back then. Things were crazy in the 80s, and so we're there, and we got in and got to sit down, and when they were giving out Ladmo bags, and I was like in the way back, and of course they never pick in the very back row, so I just got pissed and got up, started crawling over top of people, and sat down in a relative, made myself some room. Mm-hmm. Literally, the next Ladmo bag went to the girl sitting next to me, and I was livid. I was like, if I'd have just picked that spot instead of this one, I was like, that was the closest I ever got. But I mean, I was so mad. Anyways, back to the cartoon. Came on only during Wallace and Ladmo. It was a racing cartoon called Tom Slick. I don't know if any of you even remember that, but
I don't remember.
He drove a race car that kind of similar to look like a modified, like the kind of car that I raced. It had or at least the when modifieds were first built back in the late 80s, early 90s, they kind of looked more like street cars with the front fenders pulled off.
Right.
And that's what Tom Slick's race car looked like. And then he had there was the villain. I can't remember the villain's name, and it didn't come on all the time, because they had George of the Jungle was like the most popular, They even made a movie out of that one.
Yep.
Yeah. Brendan Fraser.
Yep. But
her boyfriend.
Yep. Tom Slick. That was one that I waited for, and it was like hitting the lottery. I mean, it'd come on maybe once a week on Wallace and Ladmo. But that was, because it was a racing cartoon, and it was awesome.
That's like Animaniacs.
Oh,
you were lucky if you got the Chicken Boo episode. Chicken Boo was my favorite. He was awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right, so I guess we're on to video games now. Brian, what video game franchise would you like to see made into a live action movie franchise?
NASCAR 95.
That's a tough one. But I want to hear what you guys, because I want to hear how you guys adapt and yeah. So
okay.
Let me research mine a little bit more. But okay. I have some thoughts. But
all right.
Okay. So you're gonna come to me,
right, of
So
course.
the person that hardly plays any video games. So it was either in between. Okay, I thought Duck Hunt, but I'm like, I don't know how that one can be turned into.
That's called Duck Dynasty. It's a TV show.
Duck Dynasty.
I guess the current one that I'm playing, Persona 4.
Persona 4.
What is that?
It's a Japanese role-playing game about some kids in high school. There's some murders going on in town, and there's a TV that you can go into and
you meet with Teddy, and you have to find people that were taken into the TV,
and then defeat their evil persona.
So this is like a kind of like real people type thing.
Yeah, it's anime, but yeah. It's I think that's a solid choice. I love that game.
Definitely one of my favorites.
And it would have like a kind of dreamscape feel to it a little bit
when you're in the TV. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, what dreams may come or something. Yeah, I got you.
So that's my choice. I'm not very that or Grand Theft Auto.
I think Grand Theft Auto will happen one of these days.
Yeah, I'm sure that would definitely happen.
I really do.
A Grand Theft Auto movie.
Oh yeah, I'm shocked that hasn't happened already.
Especially with Grand Theft Auto 5.
Keeping an R rating might be what makes it difficult.
4 and 5 they tell a good story as well as being.
Yeah, like the first few were just driving a
story
car
maybe, but acting.
But then they started making stories to them, and it's like made sense. I honestly didn't play them a lot, but when I actually did, it's easier to piece together and have a point of what you're doing instead of let's just go run around and
kill people,
pick up hookers and steal cars.
Sounds like a good Saturday night.
Yeah. You knew GTA 4 was different from the intro. Like the second you saw the intro and the boat coming into harbor and stuff like that, and then Nico Bellic and his brother Roman or cousin Roman.
There was effort put in. Definitely. It was a ton of effort.
Come on, Nico, let's go see some big American titties. Just totally cool.
So, I guess mine probably gonna give me shit for, but I would love to see Final Fantasy VII in a real action style with good costume CGI and stuff additions. But I just of the series, that's the only one like I've generated and felt connection with the characters and stuff.
Yeah, I could see that.
And I would just love to see Barrett and the everything, Sephiroth and the whole everything.
Cloud and Tifa and Aerith.
I would just love to see all that on the big screen. Not in as good. This is what I was going to say earlier. As well as Final Fantasy movies are made visually, I want it to be live action and.
Yeah, the CGI Advent Children was. You couldn't really tell what was going on, but it was
visually. It was stunning.
Stunning. The Final Fantasy movie that didn't have anything to do with Final Fantasy VII at the time was also visually stunning, but again, you couldn't. It was so like eclectic and weird that you just really couldn't tell what was going on. My memories of Final Fantasy VII are a little different, I guess. I had Final Fantasy VII. I played through the whole thing, but like the story didn't come together for me, so they'd have to totally rewrite the story, which I'm hoping they do in the remake.
Right.
They'd have to totally rewrite the story to a point that it makes a little more sense as to what's going on.
Didn't they have to cut a bunch of stuff out?
They never finished the game
or something.
Yeah, they never finished the game. They had a release date that they had to make. They pushed it back by almost 2 years, and then finally they just released a product. Because originally, like Aerith and stuff was supposed to, I guess, emerge from the live stream and be a person again, and all of that stuff. But and it was in all the strategy guides too. She was alive at level 99, but it just never came to pass. You couldn't even get her ultimate limit break or whatever by the time she died.
Right.
It was literally impossible without cheating the game in some way. So you did you like the prequel Star Wars movies?
Yes, I did. I wasn't a big fan of Jar Jar. And I'm a bad nerd. I don't know which Star Wars movie is which. I just like the whole freaking series.
So I like 4, 5, and 6, the ones from the late 70s and early 80s.
And yes, I like them better, but I like the flashy CGI coolness of the newer ones as well.
So I like the first one. I like episode 1. It's not great, and they spend a lot of time doing things they shouldn't.
As far as
I think they spent too much time on the pod racing and stuff like that.
Really? That was my favorite.
No, I mean, I liked that part. I just felt like...
I think that part... Because at that point, Anakin, of course, was a young man, and they had to establish him as a superhuman person.
Right.
And the whole pod racing thing, to be able to do that, and the speed at which he had to react and have, just crazy amount of hand-eye coordination, like, I think that really established him as the superhuman. So I think the pod racing, maybe, I don't know, maybe to some... I honestly don't think it's just the racing aspect of it that I liked, but I think as far as basing or establishing him as a superhuman,
a bridge between the kid and the Jedi.
Yeah, it's like, okay, he is special, like, because they even said it in the movie, like,
his midichlorian count is off the charts.
You silly human, how you can't compete with us. I mean, because everybody else had 4 arms and all this crazy other stuff where he's just like one of us.
Yeah, I like the pod racing scene. I just the movie itself spent too much time away from the main characters. You had the whole trade war thing going on, which didn't feel very Star Wars to me. But anyway, the point that I was trying to make is that the thing that really brought down episodes 2 and 3 for me was Hayden Christensen and the whiny fucking Anakin Skywalker, right? You know that Anakin Skywalker is going to be Darth Vader one day, and he's just this whiny little.
You don't
bitch.
want to see him as a punk ass teen, like just fucking do what your Obi-Wan says, man. Just fucking chill.
Just constantly whining about fucking everything, and he wasn't that way as a kid.
Yeah.
So in the first episode, he was like, "Oh shit, new challenges, let's fucking do it."
Right. He's like, I don't know,
but like
I want to be a full blown. Not Jedi.
Yeah, but he became this.
Take some fucking time. Learn your shit.
He became this whiny little bitch, and I imagine that Final Fantasy VII. I imagine Cloud would be Hayden Christensen from the other 2 Star Wars movies. That's my only fear. That's where I was going with this whole thing. Was that Cloud is sort of a whiny little bitch in most of that game, and
I think another thing that brought the prequels down is the original Star Wars. All 3 movies, Vader and Emperor were the bad guys, through all of them. And then there was Darth Maul, there was
Darth Sidious.
Yeah, there was at least one main bad guy per movie.
The
Akbar?
No, the guy that was made to be an action figure, the guy with the fucking arms. And I can't remember his fucking name. But yeah,
there was too many main bad guys, and none of them really. You can't have a good guy without a good bad guy.
Right.
Well, you've got Darth Sidious who's sending Darth Maul, and I don't think they ever say Sidious in the whole movie. But you've got Darth Sidious who's sending Darth Maul on these fucking quests to like kill good Jedi, and like it's never really like explained who Darth Sidious is, why he's doing this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You think that he might be the senator, but the makeup is different enough that you can't tell if he's Senator Palpatine or not.
Right.
I don't know if Darth Sidious still exists somewhere, and
like they kind of he disappeared in the third one. It's like
I mean, people who read Star Wars books knew that Emperor Palpatine would be.
And I mean, I think for the most part, you put 2 and 2 together, because just the voice was the same,
right?
But I feel you. You fall in love with the hero, you also want to kind of fall into hate with a person, and
a force.
Just like Hulk Hogan's success in the 80s and stuff. It was benefited by the Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov, Andre the Giant, Roddy Piper, all the great bad guys that he fought for the American way against and stuff. And I mean, without that,
the first one when Darth Maul didn't even talk, it's like. How can you? He's just a bad guy. I mean, You want to hear those, little quips from the bad guy. You know what I mean? You want to hate him
for a reason.
Yeah, not just because he killed. I mean, killing people is bad enough, but
I feel like they well, because I've read some of how Darth Maul came to be. The man who played Darth Maul was a stunt coordinator for the new Star Wars movies.
Right.
They liked him so much they decided to create a character for him, which became Darth Maul. But he wasn't an actor; he was a stunt person. So
that's why they did.
That's why that's why he is what he is.
We're gonna put you on camera. Just shut up.
But yeah, that's why. But I think that leads to the point of why those films didn't feel very cohesive, or they weren't exactly what you expected. I don't know.
And it did seem like you touched on earlier. It seemed like Star Wars was a great movie that produced great toys, and they're like, well, let's make a movie that produces great toys with that in mind.
Yeah, exactly.
And the marketing aspect of how much money can we make outside of the theater with these films.
Oh yeah, because a lot of times it's the merch. That
they needed more than 6 characters to sell merch and make it work.
Because you make a toy for a couple pennies and sell it for $10-$20. I mean, there's you astronomically more money than what you can make off of the actual movie, because you have to, those movies most of the time you're sinking in $100 million to and it's a gamble. Whereas like if you hit on the toy market, you've got very little invested in a truckload of these things.
Yeah.
Like that thing right there, that big ass Darth Vader right there, that thing probably didn't take but 10 cents to make.
Right. Yeah.
And I guarantee it was probably $100 in the store at the time. And it's like there's all upside. There's no down. I mean, even if they don't sell them, they're still, what are they out? A couple $1,000 on a truckload of toys? I mean, really? I mean, there's no risk to it.
And they will sell them eventually.
I was going to say, if they're smart, they would just throw them in a storeroom for 10 years and then throw them on eBay.
Yeah.
Yep. They're like, hey, nobody bought this, so it's super rare.
Yeah.
Right?
It's super rare and still in the box.
And I can, that makes sense what you're saying, is they kind of maybe were
putting
the cart ahead of the horse, and instead of building a awesome fucking story, they did sink a ton of effort into new spaceship designs and character designs and whatnot, but like the story was
it just wasn't there,
bit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, the cohesiveness, especially between the three, were lackluster at best.
Yeah, there was like a 12-year period between 1 and 2 that is totally just I don't know, just not my favorite. Not my favorite. But anyway, that was my thing. I was trying to get to the Hayden Christensen as a whiny bitch thing to talk about how Cloud would just be a whiny bitch.
You try and go back and tie in something really small and it turns into a 20-minute conversation.
It turns into a 20-minute conversation. I guess so for my video game, I know what a lot of people expect me to pick.
Last of Us.
I know everybody expects me to pick The Last of Us, but I'm not going to pick The Last of Us. My experience with The Last of Us was my experience with The Last of Us, and I don't want that ruined or clouded by some producer or some creative director who thinks they know better than the original creators that made this thing that for me was perfect. So I'm not going to go with The Last of Us. I'm going to go with Metroid.
Ooh. Okay.
I know some of the people that watch this podcast don't realize how far back Metroid's lineage goes, but there was a Nintendo game, and the whole thing about the Nintendo game was it wasn't revealed until the end of the game that Samus was a woman. She was a strong female lead. She's only gotten better over the years. Metroid Prime is such an excellent game. I think that Katie Sackhoff could play Samus really well.
Yeah,
I think that she could. I think that she could pull it off. And any excuse to get Katie Sackhoff in a movie kicking ass is right up there for me.
Right.
So yeah, I'm gonna go with Metroid just because I think
she'd probably be a decent Chitara as well.
Yeah.
Option anyway.
True. Yeah. But it's one of those things. It's I have a lot of love for Metroid. I love strong female protagonists. I like good story. I like good science fiction, and I think the Metroid universe everything in the Metroid universe is vague enough right now that they could take some creative license and not piss off a bunch of people,
right?
And still make an excellent movie. So
I can see that.
Yeah, Metroid is my choice.
Nice. Another also ran was World of Warcraft, and yes, I know they're in the process of making it and everything and stuff. But
they are. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought you would have picked.
Yeah, it was tough, but
I think Final Fantasy VII is a solid choice. Like I said, I worry about the whininess of Cloud and the whole Japanese-ness of the whole thing.
yeah.
You know,
Plus, I want to see a Chocobo.
Chocobo. Amanda likes Chocobos. She thinks they're awesome. When I got a Chocobo in Final Fantasy,
All of this is going well over my head.
It's a big rideable chicken, basically. It's like Big Bird,
okay,
but more bird-like.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was playing Final Fantasy 14 and I hit level 35 and could do my Chocobo quest, like every time you get on the Chocobo, it plays the theme song, and I was just smiling like an idiot because I thought it was the greatest thing ever. So yeah, no, Chocobos for sure. Quee quee.
Awesome,
Right.
awesome.
Okay.
So does anybody have any other honorable mentions I want to mention before we wrap this thing up?
Well, see, since I passed, I'll go ahead and.
Oh, that's right.
Video game.
What kind of brought this on was here just recently on Facebook. There was a post that I had clicked on because it basically gave the backstory of how this video came to be and how it was different in the arcade version versus the actual console version. And my pick would be, because there's so much opportunity for backstories, but the main character, you pretty much know his life story already, it would be Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Oh.
Because I'm a fan of, there were so many characters, and I mean, through all the stages that
Fast Joe, Bald Bull.
it would be pretty cool not have zero CGI, but go pretty basic on it and just have real people, or as real as you could get it, and just be like, hey, give them little backstories on Glass Joe and all these guys and how they come to be, and kind of get somewhat realistic with it.
Would it be okay to do a movie with Mr. Dream instead of Mike Tyson?
I don't know. You almost kind of would have to not use Mike Tyson.
He's such a piece of shit.
Well, I've actually come around to, after watching his documentary on ESPN of his story, because you kind of learn how he was just played and taken advantage of by Don King and the whole system. And they literally,
and he was really young when he got thrown into that.
Super young, and had mental issues, and they literally would rob him of his medication to get him pissed off to become that fucking animal that would just tear people apart. And it kind of how do you expect the fucking guy to be normal when you're in this thing and making hundreds of millions of dollars and surrounded by people that just using the shit out of you? So I honestly think using somebody other than Mike Tyson as the main character would almost be a necessity, but
because then it would become all about Mike Tyson.
Yeah, it would be the Mike Tyson movie, and it wouldn't
be about Mike.
I don't know. That's kind of why I was kind of on the fence about that one. But like I said, I'm a big fan of hearing the backstories of stuff. Like, for example, my wife and I attended the musical Wicked.
Yeah, that's a good one. Nice. I've seen that one. It's awesome.
If you haven't been, if you've never been to a musical, go see that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because everybody knows the Wizard of Oz. Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We from 5 years old, on. Everybody remembers the Wizard of Oz, and it basically gives you not even just the backstory of it, but it also gives you the post story of what happens after what we thought, the Wicked Witch when she died. Well, it gives, spoiler alert here, but it gives you the rest of the story.
Right.
And I love that kind of stuff when you've got these institutions that, like Wizard of Oz, for example, or in my choice would be like Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Everybody knows those things. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows that movie and everybody knows that game. But it'd be really cool to catch a backstory and be like, well, Glass Joe? How did he get a glass jaw? I mean, how did that happen? I mean, how did all this other stuff come about? And so that's why, for me, just the backstory standpoint and my likes as a moviegoer to the whole backstory aspect would be Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
I think McDonald's could sponsor that movie because, of course, it's about Little Mac, but his dad's got to be Big Mac, right?
Okay. 2 questions. Do you see it more in your vision as like a blood sport boxing tournament and like a weekend, and he has to progress through all these fighters in one event? Or do you see it as like a year or two in this guy's life?
Yeah,
fighting these guys as he's trying to get to the championship
because
belt?
I mean, you can't make a guy fight 10 people in a weekend. I mean,
Jean-Claude Van Damme has in like 23 movies.
Like I said, I would try to go more realistic with it. Kind of have the feel of $1 Million Baby.
Right.
Kind of have that feel to it of
But it's a movie about Little Mac.
Yeah. Okay. The movie would be about. I guess what I failed to point out earlier was that the movie would be about Little Mac and his thing.
Right, but it would definitely you would learn about
you would learn about
opponents as he's learning about
exactly. And I mean that's kind of that just seems interesting to me.
Is it just me or like that weatherman? What's his name from the Today Show?
Al Roker?
Al Roker? He's got to be Little Mac's trainer, right?
Yeah, definitely. And as we were talking about this...
Riding the bike.
I don't know if he has any acting chops, but I could see Kenny Florian playing Lil Mac.
Who's that?
Kenny Kinflow. He was in the UFC, and he does more ringside announcing and analyzing. He was in BattleBots. Right? He was a BattleBots announcer guy. I think his physique and looks would go. He's a professional fighter. I just don't know if the acting side of it, but it's a boxing movie, so it might not require a lot.
With enough practice, you can pretty much get anybody to be an actor. I mean, there's porn stars that have crossed over into real acting, so I mean, it can't be that hard.
Okay, so now I've got the brain juices flowing for a second. Did anybody see Scott Pilgrim versus the World?
Yeah, that was great. I love how it was a live action video game.
Make a Punch-Out movie that is
like that.
It's live action, but it's still got the video game cheesiness in it.
Every time he goes,
because you have to be able to get that punch. That goes, and then you have to be able to do the uppercut.
He keeps pulling his pants up.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Like the Punch-Out movie has to be like Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
I can see that.
It
could go that way. I mean, that would
probably not your vision, but it's just
That's another way.
I was thinking of all the kind of crazy shit that goes on, and then the guy,
because that's actually what made Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. What it was.
Each character had its own little quirk.
I mean, it wasn't just a boxing game. It was, and granted, it was in the time when game manufacturers and writers and programmers were handcuffed by technology and everything. So every video game had a pattern.
Right.
If you could figure out what was going on the screen, you could beat any game.
That was one of the things I was saying on that Facebook post that I was reading about. Is they were saying, like on Bald Bull, for example, it was years. Decades after the game came out. But somebody figured out that when you're fighting Bald Bull, if you pay attention, there's a flash bulb that goes off right when he's about to do his bull charge, and if you
punch him right in the head,
low punch. Right when that flash bulb goes off, you'll beat him every time.
Yep.
But people didn't put 2 and 2 together until just recently. Like I said, like I said, it was all about the patterns and doing a certain thing when the fighter did a certain move or certain face or something.
I feel like Punch-Out was like a pinnacle of game design and development at the time, because like now game developers have had to focus more on simplicity and design, especially when you're talking about mobile games. But like back then, the consoles came out every 3 to 4 years, and they always had more and more buttons and more gimmicks and shit like that.
Right.
But like you could pick up Punch-Out and it immediately made sense that B was left punch, A was right punch.
There wasn't multiple screens. You were in the same fucking ring for every fighter. The only thing that changed was maybe the color of the ropes, and that's it.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it was always you're on this side, they're on that side.
Yep. Right arrow.
Yeah.
Left arrow.
Yeah. I mean,
down.
it was incredibly simple.
It made sense. Like anybody could pick it up.
Very intuitive.
Yeah. You could pick it up and beat Glass Joe your first fight. You could probably get through your second fight, whether you liked video games or not, whether you like boxing or not. It made sense immediately.
Yeah.
And that's a game that I can throw it on the Nintendo and I can just space out for like an hour, and just
he says
perfect.
hour. That's funny.
But it's a perfect game for game design. I think. I think it's a great
I would agree
example.
with that. Yeah.
But anyway, so I guess that's the end of our podcast today.
I think so.
Good deal.
That's our guild meeting. So, catch us on Podbean. Check out our normal podcast. Check out our D&D side quest if that's your sort of thing. Want to be a voyeur on a D&D game. Obviously, guild meetings every week. Usually posted Friday or Saturday. And then whatever other special segments we feel like fucking doing.
And even if this is just like, you're like, okay, this was kind of cool, subscribe anyway. Just subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe.
We need subscribers.
It doesn't cost you anything.
Please.
Yeah, we're trying to get to 500 subscribers on YouTube. If we get up to 500 subscribers, of course, we get our little youtube.com/aimless adventure as opposed to YXUB_ whatever the fuck it is now. So if we could get subscribers, that would be great.
Really appreciate it.
Like I said, please listen to us on your favorite podcast service. We're giving away it in television once we reach 500 subscribers. There's a video on our YouTube channel now that you can check out about the contest.
Yep.
So that's what we got going on. Thank you all for joining, and we will chat at you next time.